Welcome back to another jam-packed week in Sunbelt football, or should I say, pretty light week. Two really good games, Scott, but nothing really out of the ordinary. Your team gave my team a scare, talking about my Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Gave me a little bit of a scare. And App State and Georgia Southern also played. Let's talk about Coastal, though, because I want to get it from you. Because you root for Troy. You're a Troy guy. We have been known to talk about Coastal on this podcast, like everybody else should be, because they're the best team in the Sun Belt Conference, though. You had to feel pretty good, though, in that first half that you were going to knock off the Chanticleers.
I didn't know how to feel. The first half was so different. It went so up and down. It was 14-0 so fast, and I'm sitting there wondering how am I going to cover this blowout game, because I hate covering blowout games. It's so difficult to find anything to write about. And then it just switched gears in the second quarter. Troy scored 3 times. Kept settling for field goals, though. It just felt different. The vibe was really different. It was a 21-16 game. The shots were winning. It was different. I didn't expect it. I don't think many people did. I was sitting there going, what's going to happen here in the second half? I have no idea.
Well, I thought it was interesting because, we talked about this game. Coastal wins it 42-38, but it was Troy's game to lose, I thought, in the fourth quarter. I thought Troy was going to walk away and with the win. My biggest takeaway, though, wasn't from the Chanticleers, because the Chanticleers played a little bit worse than I thought they would in the second half. I thought they would come out and play a little bit better against Troy, especially on the defensive end. They gave up, 22 points in the second half to Troy. I thought they would be better in the second half on defense. Where has this Troy team been, Scott, where they're playing toe-to-toe with the best team in the conference and one of the best teams in the country, to be quite frank? Where was this team all year where they could play like this?
It's definitely been an up and down year. The team hit a lull kind of in the middle of the season with Gunnar Watson out and having some COVID issues and all that, and injuries and stuff. But they were full health today. I think they've been full health and really not played as well as they could have. You can look back at the BYU game at the beginning of this year where they just got absolutely smoked. And then, of course, Coastal beat BYU, so you would think that, Coastal would smoke Troy, but that just didn't happen. It was a very good game. It was the best I had seen Chip Lindsey call plays on the offensive side. It was, Coastal scored 42 points, but it was still one of the better games I've seen out of the Troy defense this year. Carlton Marshall had 21 tackles and interception. He's only the second person all year to pick off Grayson McCall. So, I mean, it's just a monster game. They had a huge goal line stand in the fourth quarter where they held Coastal at the 1-yard line twice to turn it over on downs. So it was just a different Troy team that we have not seen all year, like you said.
Now, was it just because it was the Sun Belt Conference? And I know, Troy, you put them in that class with App State and Louisiana. They are, you mentioned last week, I think the only team to win 5 consecutive Sun Belt titles, right? So you put them in that class of their own. Was it just that? Was it just, hey, we're the Troy Trojans and we're here to play? Was it that, or was it just, a weird Saturday night game?
It could be a number of things. It could be some things on Coastal side of the ball as well, because they, as we know, they tried to get out of playing this game. They didn't want to play. They asked the Sun Belt to cancel this game so it could prepare for Louisiana. That didn't happen, and I think that gives a little extra motivation on the Troy side of things when you get into the Troy locker room. I had a player tell me at the beginning last week that they thought they were going to shock the world, so there was obviously some confidence going into this game. They didn't come into it, just done for the year. That was a big deal 2 weeks ago. They had just gotten smoked by App State. It felt a lot like last year where they just hit the end of the road. They were done. They couldn't do it. And last week, I guess beating South Alabama 29-0 was a big confidence booster for the team. And it carried over. So there's a lot of different things at play here. I think Coastal maybe just didn't want to play this game a little bit. I don't know. Troy really wanted to play this game. They really wanted to take a shot at Coastal Carolina. And all these things just came together. And at the end of the day, the better team made the last play. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah, again, I thought it was really interesting the way this game kind of broke down. I do want to say about Grayson McCall, who, even with that interception, I thought this was one of his best games of the year. And coming off that BYU game, I didn't think he could get much better, Scott. 338 yards, 3 TDs, and INT, of course. Only 5 incompletions, though. And that's something that, I think because college football has gone so much this way of the NFL, where there is very high accurate passers and very good completion rates, that when a guy like McCall only has 5 incompletions, we kind of just shrug our shoulders at it. But man, I was watching him play in that Troy game, and I was thinking to myself, this is a guy that in 3 years could be an NFL player. Like I do, when I see him play, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, there's a lot of room to grow here. What did you see out of him against Troy?
Yeah, what was really impressive about Grayson McCall's day is it wasn't a lot of checkdowns. It wasn't a lot of screens. I mean, he was pushing the ball downfield and connecting almost every time. It seemed like every time I looked up, it was a completed pass to Javen Hiley, to Isaiah Likely, to somebody. Hiley caught 11 passes in this game, and he was always open. So credit to him. I think that this receiving core does a lot for McCall. Also, the defense I thought was a little lackluster in pass defense a little bit, playing off more than they should have. The worst Troy defensive play of the game was the signature pop pass. I watched the replay from behind Grayson McCall where he fakes the run, backs up, throws it to the running back CJ. They could have scored either way. If Grayson had just ran the ball, he would have walked into the end zone. Nobody checked the quarterback. Nobody checked the running back running right at the middle. So just a mixture of a couple of things, but Grayson McCall, just a phenomenal quarterback. Seeing it in person was wild. I mean, it almost – I didn't expect to see an incomplete pass. When he took that snap and he dropped back, I knew it was a 10-yard gain. So he just wasn't throwing anything, anywhere that wasn't, directly into the chest of his wide receiver. The interception was his one bad mistake. He got hit pretty good on the play. KJ Robinson came in. He should have just held it. He should have known the situation. You could punt the ball, put Troy back on its own 40-yard line, but instead he tried to throw it and went right into Carlton Marshall's hands, and that's a 20-yard swing right there. So that was his only mistake, but otherwise he was phenomenal in this game.
And I think he gets one of those. I do. We talk about young quarterbacks all the time. I think he gets one of those a game, but he has plenty in his. He's stacked up plenty of great plays. That one bad play doesn't really matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. I still think that this has been the best quarterback in the Sun Belt Conference this year. We'll talk about the other guy, Zach Thomas, here in a second. But I do want to say, because I'm foreshadowing, we're going to talk about the Sun Belt Championship game this coming week and what we can expect from it. But, man, I'm so disappointed that we're not going to get to see Coastal play a Power 5 team. Like, I'm looking at the end of the season here. Yeah, okay, Louisiana is going to be a really tough test. But I really do believe that this team could beat some of those other teams. And I'm looking at Iowa State. I'm looking at you. There's a way that Iowa State. There's a way that Northwestern, even A&M. These are the teams that are looking at a chance to get into the playoffs. And I think right now, given 2 or 3 weeks to prepare, I think Coastal could beat any of those teams. And it's really frustrating that we're not going to get to see that.
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to happen. I think the best case scenario, I do believe that Coastal Carolina is going to go to the Cure Bowl, which would lock the shots with probably an American Conference team, which is good. That's the best competition that the Sun Belt can get every single year. I've personally been on the fence of we need more bowl tie-ins. We need stronger bowl tie-ins that get us locked in with the Power 5 team. I mean, you look at Conference USA, they're playing a Power 5 team in a bowl game sometimes. And it happened last year, I think, and they won the game. And so this is something that the Sun Belt needs to do, and it just hasn't happened yet. But Coastal up against an American team, I don't know who it's going to be. It won't be UCF. I know they got BYU. That's going to be a fun one. But, really anybody over there. It won't be Cincinnati either if they're playing in the New Year's Six. But that's probably what's going to happen.
I'm just really frustrated, and I'm disappointed. And, look, Sun Belt Conference, it's in the same geographical area as the SEC. Give us Auburn. Give us one of these other teams that ends up being 3rd or 4th every year in the SEC. And let a team like Coastal, let a team like App State play them. I get really frustrated about this stuff, man. And it bothers me a lot that we're not going to get to see Coastal play in a meaningful game after Saturday. So, all right, let's talk about App State and Georgia Southern. This one, man, it had people on Twitter talking because we've talked about App State numerous times on this podcast, numerous times. Every time I talk to you, we kind of give Zach Thomas a little bit of grief. We give App State fans a little bit of grief. They continue to win games, but man, this one I did not know if they were going to pull it off.
Yeah, I remember checking in on it when I was at the Troy game, and Georgia Southern seemed to be commandingly in front and in control of the game. I guess not overly surprising, the triple ops is going to hit you a little bit different at first. And Georgia Southern's defense, we talked about it all year, it's very stout. It's one of the best in the league. So it's not overly surprising that this happened in this way. But credit to App State. And it wasn't just, Georgia Southern's third-string quarterback coming into the game and they strapped up. There wasn't much of a huge difference down the stretch. I mean, the third-string quarterback, they tried to throw the ball a little bit with him. That put him in a bad situation, but that's because they were down, because the App State offense adjusted, found ways to move the football down the field. Nate Noel, the freshman running back, had a great game, 103 yards, a 70-yard touchdown. It's just a great job by the App State coaches to get in the locker room at halftime and change up what was going on. And really, I think it started on the offensive line for the Mountaineers. They probably got the best, offensive line group of the Sun Belt, and they opened up holes in the second half for the running backs, and that was the difference.
And you talked about you had to shift some dudes out of the of our our awards that we were going to do probably this coming week. Next week we're going to do some awards. You had to shift some guys around to make some room.
Yeah, Nate Noel went and had this game. We're going to do a Freshman Player of the Year award, and we've got 5 finalists, and it's a tough one to do because there's a lot of good options out there, especially at running back. There's a lot of freshman running backs that are going to take over this league over the next few years. And Lincoln Perry at Arkansas State, Calvin Hill at Texas State, Kamani Vidal at Troy, and Nate Noel here at Appalachian State. And he went and had a big game last week. I'm going through the list. Nate Noel's just on the outside. I put it in the Sunbelt Pages group chat. I put player A, player B, player C. Nobody chose Nate Noel, but I think after this week it might change a little bit. Everybody chose Calvin Hill, but we will we've got another Texas State player on that list, so we might just choose that player and swap Calvin Hill out. But if you're watching as a Texas State fan, Calvin Hill, he's right up there.
That's all we ask for. It's a little bit of a pat on the back. Give Texas State a little bit of their, do what they're due. Okay, App State's season pretty much over. I think they're going to play in a bowl game. Do we know what bowl game they're going to play in yet, Scott?
Myrtle Beach, the Myrtle Beach Bowl. I wish I could very quickly find out who they're playing because I think they know who they're playing. But that got announced. North Texas. They're playing North Texas in the inaugural Myrtle Beach Bowl. Very fun. I can't wait for the Mountaineers to return. Was that game at Coastal Carolina?
I think it was. Now we can go back and we can look, but I'm pretty sure that game was at Coastal, the one that App State ended up losing, and the one that knocked him off the throne of who runs the Sun Belt. Yeah, no, that game was at Coastal. That was a 34-23 loss that the Mountaineers got. So they come back for vengeance against UNT. That should be a good one. All right, let's talk about, because we got a little bit more to go talking about games to play. We have the Sun Belt Championship game. That game plays on Saturday. But before that, we have the Thriller in Manila. This is the biggest game that Troy's played all year. They face it off against ULM in a really weird same week as the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Let me tell you something, Scott. I cannot get up for this game. I'm not excited for it. Troy's a 26-point favorite right now against ULM. This should be a walk in the park. I would not be shocked if this game gets canceled.
I don't think anybody really wants this game to be canceled on the Troy side of things because a bowl game still hangs in the balance here. But on the ULM side, yeah, there might be some positives come through in the next few days, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I was very surprised that they actually did this, that the Sun Belt Conference actually scheduled this in this way, especially when they did it while Troy was still in contention for the division title. Like it had not been decided yet. Troy had not been eliminated yet, but they scheduled this game for 2 days before the conference championship game. They really just wanted Troy to play Coastal because ULM was supposed to be the game last week, I believe. So they had a choice here, and obviously, where the Sun Belt's mind was at, they've moved the Coastal Carolina game back to this past weekend and moved ULM up so that they could get that Chanticleer game in, get them another win against a more respected team in the Sun Belt than somebody else. So it's going to happen. It may not happen, but if it happens, it happens. It's like if a tree falls in the woods, do you hear it? It's that kind of a deal, I think. But it's a good opportunity for Troy to go out there and win a Sun Belt Conference game by 50 points and get some kind of momentum going for Chip Lindsey. They seem to have a lot of good pieces falling in place for next season. If everything sticks around, everything stays intact, the Trojans are looking at a big upswing next year.
Yeah, it's on ESPN3, so you're going to go up against Thursday Night Football and NBA preseason games. So maybe
Thursday Night Football sucks. So
maybe you'll get 1,000 people watching, Scott. Who knows? You'll get 1,000 people tuning into the.
It won't be me. I'll be at the game. So, and there's not any Louisiana Monroe fans to watch any football games either. So yeah, it might struggle to get up to 1K.
All right, let's talk about the game that everybody really cares about. ULL versus Coastal round 2, right? This is the second time these two teams have faced off against each other. This time it means a little bit more. ULL played Coastal Carolina. I want to say back, I'm trying to find the date for that game. Coastal ended up winning that game by 3 in Louisiana, 30-27. Scott, take it away. What we expect out of the championship game here?
Oh man, some haymakers being tossed back and forth. I think Louisiana is going to come out strong. I think there's a very real possibility that Louisiana wins this game. I mean, they only lost by a last-second field goal last time around, and they've had a week to rest. They've had a week to game plan, and this team is ready to go. I mean, they're absolutely prepared. They're ready to play for Billy Napier. That's the big thing. And I think they're juiced up. I think they're ready. I think Coastal Carolina, they're a little upset that they had to play this last game. I don't think that they have as many injuries as they possibly say they could have had. I don't know. They had defensive players falling on the ground left and right, dropping like flies against Troy, popping back in the game 2 plays later. But they should be good. They should be fine. They've been playing all season, week after week after week, winning games week after week after week. They scheduled BYU 3 days in advance, and they want to complain about having to play Troy a week before the conference championship game. You can give me a break there. It's the first negative opinion I've had about Coastal Carolina. You can't schedule BYU 3 days, 3 days before the game, and then complain you have to play Troy before the conference title game. But it's whatever. I think both teams can come out. I think we're going to get a great game. I think we might get a low-scoring game. Both of these offenses, they know each other. The defenses know each other. It wasn't super high-scoring. We didn't crack 60 points last time around. But I would expect that this game to be decided in the 20s.
So over under 54. Coastal's a 4-point favorite because the weird thing about the Sun Belt Conference is they have offices at the Superdome, and yet we play this deal where home team gets home field or best record gets home field advantage. I never liked that. I still don't like it. Consistently, the East ends up getting the home field. It's App State, it's Coastal. It's always a team on the East Coast. So if you're a Western team, you're having to travel to the East Coast. Look, this is going to be a great one. I do like how Coastal gets ranked in the top 10 and then gets a big head, doesn't want to play Troy. Come on, got to remember where you're from, baby. Got to play everybody. But I think that this is going to be a game that Coastal wins outright because I'm looking at the way that these two teams faced off earlier in the season, and this was not the Coastal Carolina team that we grow to know and love. Like when they won this game, Scott, we were on the bandwagon. We were like, hey, Coastal has something here. The rest of the country was on the bandwagon, and I don't think the Chanticleers were on that bandwagon either. I don't think they knew that they were going to be a top 25, top 15, top 10 team in the country. So I think that Coastal, they're excited for this. This is the first time they're playing a game this big since they joined the Sun Belt Conference, and this is going to be one where it's kind of old school versus new school to me. Billy Napier and ULL have been here before. They're a team that has known what it feels like to play in a championship. Coastal, they're coming off the biggest win the Sun Belt had this year in BYU, and it's going to be exciting. That's the one thing I know for sure is that if it's a defensive game, it's going to be exciting. If this is an offensive game and McCall gets to throw the ball 35 times, it's going to be exciting. I'm very up for this one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be really fun with just because of the name brand value of this game. You know, all of the big names on both sides of the field. You got Grayson McCall going up against Levi Lewis. I mean, this is what the Sun Belt Conference season has led to, a very long Sun Belt Conference season. I mean, it's December 14th. We've got a game on December 17th, a regular season game on December 17th. Very long season, but that's off topic. The name brand value of this game is what has me excited. I can. This is a game that I can sit down, two non-Troy teams, and I can call everybody by their first names because I've been watching these guys all year long, and these are the big stars of the Sun Belt, and they are stars in the college football universe now. It's the first time I think ever this has happened where you've gotten two teams from the Sun Belt where everybody in the country is looking at it and going, I know this team. I have seen them once. I've seen them twice. I've watched them 3 times this year. I know these guys. They're on ESPN, middle of the afternoon. This is a big one.
Yeah, and two top 25 teams too. That's not something that always happens. A lot of the times it's App State sitting at 22, and then ULL will come in unranked. Maybe they got ranked 25 a couple weeks before. But this time, 2 top 25 teams and, 2 top 20 teams. ULL is 19. Coastal is number 9 right now. I'm thinking it's looking very, very good for the Chanticleers and the Raging Cajuns too. Okay. Let's make the prediction. We don't usually do that. We do not usually make predictions on this podcast. Normally, we just give you, the viewer, what our takes are, and then we continue to move on. But I do want to get a prediction for this one because this one matters. So I'll start with you, Scott. Where do you see this game ending up?
I don't see Coastal Carolina kicking any field goals. They haven't been that kind of a team. They can kick. They've got a great special teams. They've got a good punter. They score touchdowns for the most part. They're a touchdown scoring team. It's a tough defense that they're going up against, but I think for right now, for this game, it's all or nothing, whatever situation that they're in. I think they're going to be aggressive. So I think they're going to end up right at 28 points. Louisiana, they've had some special teams issues as of late. So you never really know with that. I think they've gone with a new kicker, though. So we'll see how that goes. I hope their long snappers had a good 2 weeks. I hope that he's been practicing, and I hope that he's ready. I'm going to go with 28-27.
Give me Coastal Carolina 30, Louisiana 25. I think it's going to be a weird one, a weird score in that one. All right. Before we go, we do need to talk about our favorite team who didn't play this week because they got COVID canceled against Incarnate Word, Arkansas State. Arkansas State has a new head coach. They hired this guy just a few hours, honestly, before the best available head coach gets fired from Auburn. Arkansas State has a new coach. Former Tennessee Vol Butch Jones is coming to Arkansas State. Scott, initial reaction to that news?
Caution. Not a ton of excitement. He's not exactly a program builder. He's never built any type of program up. Good for him. He doesn't really have to build much at Arkansas State. I know that the record wasn't what they wanted this year, but it's there. I mean, the support is there in Jonesboro. So I mean, he doesn't have to build much. He took over at Central Michigan for Brian Kelly, who had won games there, and he maintained. He then took over at Cincinnati for Brian Kelly and maintained after a 4-8 start to the thing. But he's not a program builder. He's a program maintainer. And so I think that's kind of what they're going to be getting at Arkansas State. I do like the offensive coordinator hire in Major Applewhite. They've got a lot of big talent, of course. We've talked about it all year long. We've seen it for multiple years. They've got a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that's a big thing for them. So I think that coordinator hire was very important. We'll see what they do on the defensive side of the ball. But for right now, having that name just in the Sun Belt, though, I think it's going to make a difference.
Is it weird that I got more excited about Applewhite than I did about Jones? Because my initial reaction was this should have been the head coach. Applewhite should have been the head coach of this team, and he goes and finds another offensive coordinator. I'm not very high on Butch Jones, and maybe that's just because he was awful at Tennessee. And Arkansas State's a different beast, and the Sun Belt's a different conference. But I'm just looking at it like this, Scott. Like, there's a chance that he gets outcoached by guys in this conference just from on-field coaching, and that I don't think is a good look for him.
It always is a thing that can happen. You say he was awful at Tennessee. I say he was on par with every Tennessee program since Phil
And Manning.
Fulmer. He's the first coach to win 3 straight bowl games at Tennessee since Philip Fulmer. So I don't think that I think that the expectations just oddly changed at Tennessee to win football games, to compete for conference titles when that was never a thing that was, there this century anyway. So I think that's kind of what's been attached to Butch Jones. And there's just weird things that he's said and that decisions that he's made. Of course, the trash can on the sideline, the champions of life type deal, all of that circling Butch Jones and following him wherever he goes. The fact of the matter is none of that's all that important. What you do on the field, can you win football games? That's all that matters. Butch Jones has had, I think, 1 losing season in 10 or 11 years as a head coach. It's not a terrible hire for Arkansas State, but at the same time, it's not a home run hire. You feel me?
No, this is a solid single. I would say this is a solid bat-on-ball single. Here's the only deal that this is the last thing I want to talk about on Butch Jones, though. You said he wasn't a program builder. You said he's a maintainer. I don't think Arkansas State needs a maintainer right now. We have a lot of Arkansas State people that we really like. I'm friends. I like those guys over there. But look, that program has been kind of in the mud. They're just spinning their wheels right now. And I don't think they need somebody with like Butch Jones who isn't going to get out of the car and help push the program forward. He's going to just say, let me take the wheel. Everybody else find a spot in the back and push. You know what I mean? And I want a coach who's going to try to push the car with me than just sit and steer.
Well, I tell you who does like this hire, the Sun Belt Conference.
Mm-hmm.
They finally have somebody who will market the league by just existing, so they don't have to do anything anymore. Not like they were doing anything in the first place.
No, it's been awful. We had another head coaching hire too, did we not?
Yes, we did at South Alabama.
Are we excited about that at all?
I like that hire more than Butch Jones' hire. The optics on it look really good. Kane Womack, defensive coordinator in Indiana. He was very successful when he was the defensive coordinator at South Alabama. They jumped like 13 points forward. They went from giving up 37 points a game to 24, 27 points a game. So he did a great job at South. If you look on Twitter, the South Alabama players and the former players, really, they loved him. He's a big players coach. And so I think this is a good hire just because it looks good. I think he's somebody that can probably recruit the area very well just because he has ties, just because he has connections. He's got a player in Jeremy Reeves who is in the NFL right now. So all that looks very good. It's a hire that gets people excited. That's the big thing. That means money coming in to the program, better recruiting. They've got a big stadium. They've got an indoor practice facility. They've got somebody now. They've gone a totally different direction. If you've been around Steve Campbell, he is a very homely. He's a little older guy. He just talks to you. When he talks to you, he talks to you about his cable box going out and having to call somebody to come in and fix that. This guy, Kane Womack, he's 33 years old. He's somebody that's going to come in and energize the program, and that's exactly what South Alabama needs because they've got all these brand new facilities, all this fancy stuff. They've got the money, they got the players, they got the recruiting hotbed. This is the time for South Alabama to take a big step forward, and I think they got the right guy for it.
Gus Malzahn, do we expect him to be a Sun Belt head coach?
I don't think that Louisiana Monroe is going to be hiring Gus Malzahn. I don't think that's going to happen. The names attached to the ULM coaching search are so depressing. It really just tells you where ULM is at compared to Arkansas State, who just hired Butch Jones. ULM, the only names I've seen attached to ULM jobs are FCS head coaches, low-level FCS head coaches. Like we're talking SWAC, we're talking Southland, we're talking Grambling State. It's tough times at ULM. Tough times.
Look, that's Texas State where we came from. So I'm not going to disparage any guys down there, but I will say you want to go get an FBS assistant. You want to go get somebody who's coached at some level. Jim Harbaugh might be looking for a job pretty soon. You never know. Maybe you can get him to come down to Monroe. I don't know. That's just me spitballing here.
Yeah, I think somebody big needs to just decide to take on a challenge, just for funsies. Urban Meyer, come to Monroe, come win, come be the most successful head coach in Louisiana Monroe history after one season, right? Just for fun, just do it. Bear the stench of Monroe for 1 year to just add to your legacy. Be that guy who went to Monroe and won a conference championship game in 1 year at Louisiana, who did the impossible. Why not?
Why not? All right. Well, next week, Scott and I will be back breaking down the Sun Belt Championship game. That'll be a lot of fun. Follow Scott on Twitter. He will tell you everything you need to know about the Sun Belt Championship game as the game goes on. And then we will also be breaking down the bowl games and probably doing awards. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but are we going to do awards next episode too?
I think we're gonna do. We can talk about it because the awards should be out by the time that we record the next episode.
All right. So we'll talk about awards. We'll talk about the Sun Belt Championship game, why Coastal Carolina should be ranked in the top 4, and then also all the bowl games. So, Scott, I will see you, and try not to choke on ULM.
I will try not to.